Hey YouTube, my name is JP Graves. This week, I want to talk about a problem almost every writer has faced at some point: plotting. Some people love it, some people hate it, but no matter how you feel about it, there's no denying one thing. It's the backbone of your book. Have you ever sat down, excited to start your new story, only to find yourself completely stuck? Maybe you tried filling out an outline, but it felt too forced, or maybe you started writing, but everything felt aimless. That's what we're going to talk about today. In this video, I want to share 3 things I've used to help the way I plot my books. These aren't your typical save the cat or 3-act structure tips. These are for those of you who have tried all the conventional wisdom and found it just didn't work for you. The first and maybe most important thing I can tell you to do is to relax. I know that sounds simple, but trust me, it's easier said than done. Most videos on plotting will throw tools, diagrams, and frameworks at you, and while those work for some people, they can also make you feel like you're doing it wrong if you're struggling to fit your story into neat little boxes. Here's something nobody's going to tell you. If you're stressed about plotting, your creativity is going to shut down. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, your brain enters problem-solving mode. But plotting isn't about problem-solving, it's about discovering a story. So take the pressure off yourself. Sometimes you need to take a step back and just let your brain wander. Stop trying to force yourself to go from A to B to C. Instead, go from C to F to A to Z. Write down everything that comes to you, even if it makes no sense at the time. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the best ideas aren't found by following a straight line. A piece of advice that works really well for me is change your environment. Either walk and observe the world around you, or if you prefer, stay in your writing space and just lean back, close your eyes, and fully immerse yourself in the world you're creating. Let your mind drift while you're doing this. Don't just think about what's happening in the plot. Instead, ask yourself, what does this world smell like? What do the foods taste like? What is the texture of the air? What are my characters feeling in this moment? Instead of forcing my way through an outline, I let myself live out the details. Because there's something I've learned. The best ideas tend to come when you're not actively trying to find them. You've probably had this happen before. You're doing something completely unrelated, washing the dishes, taking a shower, walking your dog, and then suddenly, bam, the perfect idea comes to you. That's because your mind needs time and space to breathe. So if you're stuck, step back, let the ideas come to you instead of trying to chase them. If you've ever been on TikTok or Instagram, you've probably heard the phrase, follow the dopamine, at least once. And honestly, it's one of the best things you can do for your writing. I see a lot of traditional plotting methods force you to plan everything before you even start writing. For some people that works, but for others it feels restrictive, like you're trying to force yourself into a structure before the idea is even fully formed. And that's where following the dopamine comes in. Instead of worrying about whether your plot is correct, focus on what excites you. What is the thing about your story that makes you the most excited to write about? Is it the big dramatic reveals? Is it the massive fight sequences? Is it a tragic moment before 2 characters part ways? Whatever it is, start there. You don't have to write your book in order. If an idea sparks something in you, chase it. See where it leads. This is exactly how I wrote In Darkest Dreams. I stopped forcing myself to write in a linear way and just let my brain explore. Whenever I got an idea, I didn't wait to see if it would fit. I immediately jumped down the rabbit hole and followed that excitement. Did it always work? No. Sometimes I wrote 5,000 words that ended up going nowhere. But other times, it led to something I never would have planned otherwise. For example, when I started In Darkest Dreams, I had a completely different ending in mind. But about halfway through, I stopped It let my mind wander with the story instead of forcing it back into my original outline. And the ending I landed on is way better than I originally plotted. So here's my advice. If an idea makes you excited, write it down. Even if it doesn't make sense. Even if it's completely out of order. Because excitement is the best tool you have as an author. If it keeps you engaged, it'll probably keep your readers engaged too. So what if you're stuck? Something that's helped me in the past is changing perspectives. Sometimes getting stuck in plotting happens because we're looking at the story in the same way over and over. Try switching to a different character's viewpoint, even if it's just for brainstorming sessions. Instead of thinking, what will happen next in my plot? Ask yourself, what is my villain doing right now? Or if you're writing a scene that's not clicking, write from another character's perspective. Even if this new perspective never makes it into the final book, it can shake loose ideas that wouldn't have surfaced otherwise. This works because sometimes we focus too much on the protagonist that we forget every other character is also living in their own story in the background. In that background, it might hold the key to getting your plot moving again. For example, say you're stuck figuring out how your protagonist gets out of a dangerous situation. Instead of forcing the answer, step into the shoes of a side character or even the antagonist. What are they doing at this moment? What would they do next? You might realize that an outside force, an ally, an enemy, or even a random bystander could naturally push the story forward in a way you hadn't considered. Now, you have to be careful with this because nobody likes Deus Ex Machina, but you might just find a way to make it work. So let's bring it all together. Step 1. Stop stressing. If you force plotting, you'll kill creativity. Take a step back and let the ideas come naturally. Step 2 is always follow the dopamine. Chase the ideas that excite you, and don't be afraid to write out of order. And step 3, change perspectives every now and then. Look at the story through another character's eyes to find new angles and ideas. At the end of the day, there's no single right way to plot a book. There's only your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, we write to tell the stories no one else can.